the LifeSci NYC Internship program. The LifeSci NYC Internship program is part of the city's initiative to grow the life science industry um, through the Economic Development Corporation's 10-year, $1 billion initiative to grow the life sciences. We offer paid internships and part-time and full-time job opportunities for both undergraduate and graduate students in either the science track or business management track during the academic year and the summer. To date, we placed over 800 college and graduate students into paid internships at nearly 200 different life science companies and nonprofit organizations in New York City. We currently have over 80 open career-focused internships and jobs, with more coming in all the time. This is a single location where you can complete one application and have access to job listings at multiple companies. We are doing all the research for you so you don't have to figure out what companies are currently hiring. We have a bunch of resources related to career development. We created a series of career profiles which offer an overview of career options in the life science industry. Each profile includes details about educational requirements, job responsibility, desired skills and qualifications, and insights from professionals currently working in these roles. So this would be an example of one for research development, and laboratory science. As you can see, there's an overview, different common tasks and responsibilities, important skills to develop while you're in school, and alumni spotlight of program alumni that are now working in the industry in this capacity. Also, this links to different career profiles. So this is in one of the links that Sally has put into the chat, and we will follow up with this information as well. So for more information, these are a bunch of resources that you can access, and we will send this information as well to you, to everyone. So we have a bunch of very exciting panelists in the sustainability space, which spans from food tech to agriculture and environmental type technologies. So would want everyone to I want to thank the panelists for taking time out of their busy schedule to come talk with us and talk about sustainability in the life sciences. So I guess to start off, will each of the panelists can introduce themselves, where you went to school, what you studied, your current role, and I guess a little bit of a summary of the career path to you to this point. Eddie, could you get it started for us?
Yeah, Eddie Mejia. Grew up from Chicago. I went to the military 6 years doing IT, and then I did my undergrad in computer engineering, and then I shot into my MBA, my Master's of Business Administration. I went to University of Illinois at Chicago for my undergrad, and then University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. I've held various internships throughout my career, working for over 5 Fortune 100 companies, doing a vast number of roles, such as game development, app development, product development, procurement, consulting, and yeah, I was most of the roles. Right now, I am the CEO of Earnest Agriculture, and we design probiotic consortium to increase crop yields for farmers. And you might find it odd that I'm going from technology over to kind of biology and agriculture. So basically, I was looking for more purpose in my life, and I had started my first startup on my undergrad, and it was a shoe display case, so in retail, totally different. But I learned a lot from that startup. And then when my business partner now, Dr. Gabe Price, basically asked, we were in the same startup program. I was with my previous company. He was with this current. And he asked if he needed help. So he asked for help, and I said, yeah, maybe let me take a look. So we spent that 1 year kind of me learning about us working together and about the business and agriculture and biology. So, and then 5 years later, we're still here. So we've done pretty well to this date. So we're pretty excited.
That's a very interesting career trajectory. Yeah, very interesting stuff that you've worked on. Marie?
Hi, everyone. My name is Maria Eric. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Tasty Tape. Um, I studied at Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore, where I focused primarily on chemical and biomolecular engineering, more so on the biomolecular engineering aspect. Um, and I did my undergrad and master's, finished my undergrad in 2022, and then did my master's in 2023. And ultimately, that's kind of the path of research that I did while I was in college ultimately led me to uh, the job I have right now. So the research I was focusing on was biomaterials, and ultimately I was focusing on the product design of an edible tape. And you might be asking, why an edible tape? What's the purpose of that? So at the time, we were focused on solving this very relatable issue of burritos falling apart and no one knowing how to exactly wrap burritos. And we created MVP. We had a really great functioning prototype at the time. And we ultimately did a presentation of our project, and people loved the idea, and we got some really great traction early on. Jimmy Fallon talked about us on his opening monologue. We were named one of Time's Best Inventions of 2022. So clearly people, love the idea of Tasty Tape. And of course, we saw this as opportunity to actually build a company around it. Now, what Tasty Tape is now has kind of evolved, and we've pivoted a couple of times, but we're primarily focusing on creating an adhesive biodegradable film. So that would be ultimately a plastic-free alternative to saran wrap. So it helps food businesses meet sustainability, regulation, and, goals that they may have on their end, while allowing them to not disrupt any of their budgets, as we're a cost-effective alternative. And it also minimizes the presence of microplastics and forever chemicals that are in food contact applications. So I'm really excited to be speaking to you today because I have a unique trajectory and unique path that led me to where I am. And I'm hopefully you'll hear some nuggets of wisdom in there.
Yeah, very interesting stuff that you're working on. Brenda?
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you for having me. And my name is Brenda. My academic background was in food science and technology, and I got my bachelor's from Cornell University. During my time there, I was involved in a variety of different research labs and also partook in a startup where we were making um, natural jerky alternatives. And this was maybe a little bit before jerky became such a regular snack in our day to day, but always kind of had an itch to kind of build something from scratch and wanted to study food science to create healthier, better for you products. I also stayed to do my master's degree in the food science department at Cornell. Just had the opportunity and wasn't ready to leave for the workforce just yet. So got a chance to hone in on some more of my laboratory based skills. I also had internships with PepsiCo while I was an undergraduate, and ultimately ended up joining them full time after graduation as a product development scientist, where I worked on making line extensions and reformulations of different beverage products, primarily under the Mountain Dew brand and some under the Pepsi brand as well. Um, I think ultimately there was maybe a little bit of a mismatch as far as my ultimate goal to work on new products and better for you products for consumers. But I discovered project management while I was at Pepsi. And that was an area that I was really passionate about. I really loved kind of bringing all the different functions together to make a product and bring something from concept to commercialization. So from there, I joined Indigo Agriculture, based up in Boston, as an R&D project manager, developing different microbial seed treatments for the agriculture sector to improve crop fitness under different environmental stressors. And really loved that role, loved the introduction to kind of the synthetic biology world, which was a bit peripheral from the food industry that I was familiar with. And now I am at C16 Biosciences. I've been here for about 3 years in a variety of roles, from program management to chief of staff, and now leading our commercial strategy and operations for our fermentation derived fats and oils products.
That's very exciting. That's very exciting and interesting work and interesting way of using food science in the sustainability space. Ravi, I think you're muted.
Oh, sorry. Could you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry for that. My name is Ravindra Revanur. I obtained my doctoral degree from the Indian Institute of Chemical Technology, Hyderabad, India. And then I moved to ASA as a research associate. My postdoctoral work at the University of Massachusetts Polymer Science and Engineering Department at Amherst is related to the clean technology. After obtaining my postdoctoral degree from UMass, I have been in this industry scale like about last 20 years. I'm working at several stages. Most likely, most of my research work related to the clean technology, especially to reduce the pollution in the environment. I also have an experience in the biotechnology a little bit, especially to study the stability structure relations of the proteins. During my stay at Germany, I did all this my work. Currently at Chemfinity Technologies, I'm working as a director of product development R&D. We are now working on the clean technology, especially to recover the critical minerals such as platinum, rhodium, and then the gold, silver. And then also we are working on to reduce the pollutants in the water, such as removing the arsenic and then the mercury. And we are also working on the climatic gas removal of the poisonous gas from the environment. Those gas, including the hydrogen, carbon dioxide, uh, by using several type of varieties of membranes. I would be glad to answer any of your questions. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you for that introduction. You can see the sustainability space is very wide. We have people from food tech, or biology type oriented companies and environmental agriculture. So it takes a wide range of different sort of um, people working together on different sort of aspects of the industry to come up with sustainable solutions. So thank you for everyone for introducing themselves. I guess like everyone's touched upon it a little bit in their summary, but how did you decide to get into the sustainability space in the life sciences or whatever industry that you're in? Was it like a moment, or was it like a series of experiences, or did you know from when you were little, like, I want to, do something in this space. I want to change the world and make it like a safer and environmentally better place. Um,
Can I speak?
yeah.
Honestly, it's an opportunity. That's my honest answer. There is a big opportunity to contribute to the society and environment, as well as you can companies can generate revenue. So it is an opportunity that environment is giving us. And then it's not like that we want to get the money from the government or some agencies, but we also have a lot of knowledge people, and then technology we develop it is so relevant. We thought that it's like kind of win-win situation.
Any other person's perspectives?
Yeah, I'm happy to comment on it. I think for me, I was mostly driven by just being really interested in science and maybe not having a clear path when I first got to university, as far as how I wanted to use that in industry. So I always just kind of followed what was interesting to me. And I think at first it started as kind of the intersection of science and health, and kind of how that impacts our day to day. And then over time, I kind of discovered the sustainability side of things. And I think that also resonated with me as something that was mission oriented, even if it was different from what I originally set out to do. And I think, it's an area of the economy that's really growing, and there's a lot of focus on it from the government regulation perspective and companies making commitments, that it's just an exciting time to be part of the innovation happening in that sector, and to be part of the disruptive technologies that could become mainstream in the next few years.
Um,
I can jump in and add a few points here. I wouldn't necessarily pinpoint my particular journey with sustainability as any particular point in my life where I thought this is what I'm going to do and this is what I'm doing for the rest of my life. I think I always knew I enjoyed science. I can kind of imagine very, when I was young, like looking at rocks and trying to understand what type of rock, whether it was sedimentary, and there was clearly, a curiosity I had about understanding things around me. And then kind of when I went into college, I had studied computer science up until that point, and there were some other areas that I had touched on, but I knew that I really loved biology and I loved building things as well. And I'd always like invented little things as I was growing up. And ultimately getting into college, I decided to explore engineering a little bit more. And as I was exploring different fields of engineering, I got into chemical engineering. But I think what brought me to sustainability, and that was more so kind of the work as I was understanding chemical engineering and understanding biomolecular engineering, there's a lot of innovation and a lot of push within those fields. And as I was working on biomaterials, I recognized that there was this huge gap in markets for materials that were pushing either food or pushing packaging. And ultimately, I thought my knowledge around polymers and topics related to that would kind of perfectly lend it into hand with what I was seeing and the issues that I was seeing presented in sustainability. So it was more so kind of a slow kind of burn and journey to ultimately get to sustainability. But I think it was one that was well worth it. And there's just, steps that were taken along the way that ultimately guided me here.
That's a very good, interesting, very different perspectives, and really opportunity, the chance to general interest and certain experiences. That's great to hear. Did any sort of courses kind of help you? Courses help you in preparing for this career? I guess like everyone has a technical background for what it seems like. How did that translate to success and developing your career in this field?
Yeah, so for me, my journey began, or kind of the deviation became when I saw a flyer on a table. It was for a pitch competition in Chicago, and so again, I was IT engineer, didn't know nothing about business, and I saw this flyer. So I went to go pitch it, and I just fell in love with it. Um, so a little back, my family does have a commercial cleaning business, so my dad always wanted me to take over, but again, I didn't feel like there was a purpose there. So I wanted to create. Like in the army, I was just fixing things, fixing like computers and stuff. So that's I went to computer engineering. So then I started creating things, but then it wasn't there still. So I got into business, and then when I went to do my graduate degrees, when I got introduced to agriculture. So that's my business partner. And I didn't know that I already had like background in agriculture. But when I was in the military, I went to Afghanistan and Iraq, and I saw a lot of, farming, a lot of poverty. And then when I was little, my mom would actually take me to Colombia to see the sugarcane fields and the poverty there. And so a combination of all that kind of, drove me to look at agriculture differently and the purpose of it. Um, so yeah, I kind of answered this question and the last question altogether, but yeah, agriculture has a huge impact. Biology has synthetic solutions for agriculture to increase yields and decrease disease is still kind of novel. So biologicals is a new and upcoming. We're still trying to figure it out. So I think we have the right approach.
Yeah, I can step in here. So In terms of courses that I can specifically attribute to, I think the one that kind of glares out at me, particular being the role of like a CEO and a co-founder of an early stage startup. I took a course called Oral Presentations, which focused on like the concept of being able to do public speaking. And, I knew this was something that I, was able to do. And, you would do presentations in class all the time, but I think I wanted to improve on it. I saw, weak points and I wanted to grow as a person in that area. And knowing that, studying chemical engineering, you don't necessarily always have to present or, having, impeccable public speaking skills isn't necessarily a huge, point as in your career, but I ultimately still something I wanted to grow in as a person. And um, I think there's some creative aspect of this class where, we were constantly making presentations every week, but I was also forced to kind of reconcile with this idea of like, being nervous to speak in front of people and making sure I was articulating myself well. But I think I learned so much in the span of, a semester, and it made me really excited about, learning how to connect with people and being able to communicate your science effectively to people and being able to share missions and get people excited about the things that you're excited about. And I think that kind of triggered something in me and wanted me to, keep at least learning how to communicate effectively. And I think not to neglect any of the science courses I took, those are still critical to bringing me to the path that I am here today. And I think ultimately they laid the foundation, I think particularly in the research that I had done in biomaterials and my understanding of polymer science came from those courses. But I think that was a course that had clicked something in my head to ultimately, bring something that I really cared about, which was science and biology and engineering and learning how to communicate that effectively to ultimately bring together the career that I have now.
Can I teach you?
That's some really great ways of looking at it and getting into the field.
Can I add something?
Oh yeah, sure.
Sure. I feel that, for example, being in R&D for last like some decade ago, last 10 years, I believe, we generate tons of data and then systematically we don't analyze it because every day we are getting like hundreds of variabilities and data points. I realized that recently I obtained a data science certification. That would really, really help. We need to at least to understand what the real problem, and if problem is there, if I change some parameters, or how it impacts. So I think data science really, really helped me to analyze the data and then put the data in systematic way. I strongly recommend for others to take this course. Also, recently I'm the certified professional project management certificate I obtained. That also really helped me to organize the money, how to proceed with the big projects, and then what kind of steps we need to involve, and then how to minimize the time, how to save the cost, everything. I think these two, I think, project management as well as the data science courses really, really.
Yeah, it sounds like some good experiences to add on to tack on to your technical training. Those sort of experiences are pretty good in terms of upskilling. So thank you for pointing those things out. In terms of like sustainability, a lot of the technologies all of you are working on are very novel, kind of out of the box thinking for a lot of them. Um, when there is new technologies, there is old traditional like industries that are trying to go against against that, or kind of have some resistance from a consumer product, like fundamental things like how we eat, how we do things, how we, it's like, pumping gas or whatnot. How have you been able, like, how has your entrepreneurial or career journeys, like, how have you like kind of alleviated those concerns to the general public or to other stakeholders?
I can kick this one off, and maybe also just add for, relevant courses. I think from your last question, that there are sustainable or sustainability minded companies in a variety of different disciplines. So really taking the classes in the areas that most interest you, whether it be biology or chemistry or data science, will be most fruitful to you in finding other companies that are a good fit for the things that you're interested in. I would say something that I found valuable that I think is applicable across different disciplines would just be ability to read scientific papers. I think all kind of companies leveraging innovation, understanding the existing technology in this space is really important. And, reading academic papers can be a little bit of a learned skill, and being able to kind of parse those easily and quickly to kind of understand the key takeaways and some of the methods. So I think if you have experience doing any kind of research or writing research papers, you've probably experienced this as well. But I think that's a really important skill that I picked up throughout my studies. And then on the question, as far as like getting consumer buy-in on sustainable products, I think the key thing that I've learned is that it's not enough to just be more sustainable than the alternatives. You have to be offering something that is inherently different than what exists and provides a unique value to customers that they can't get elsewhere, or that provides a value that is better than what they can get elsewhere. So whether that's something that's healthier or something that's cheaper or just inherently different than anything else that exists, it's really important to have some unique value proposition other than just being sustainable, because it's really difficult to get consumers to change their practices. It's even more difficult to get big multinational companies to change their practices when so much is driven by cost. So I think that's been a key learning for me during my time in the industry.
Anyone else want to chime in to that? It's a very good perspective, seeing that it's not just, enough to be sustainable. You have to be sustainable plus a whole other bunch of things to be competitive with, the competitors or the standard norms of industry or consumer behavior.
Yeah, and Brenda makes a good point. It's when I first approached that, I thought, I thought different. I thought sustainability was, everybody was like, oh yeah, we need to get a greener planet, but that is not the case. That is not the case. And I wouldn't say all farmers, but a lot of farmers, they just care. I mean, they have a livelihood to maintain. So just because sustainability is, what everybody's saying, it doesn't mean that it's going to help their business, their bottom line. So if they don't grow enough yields, then they lose their family farm that they've had from generations for like 20, 30 years. So and they don't want to be the kid that loses it all. So, so it's important to, like Brenda said, you have to make sure that if like we're making a microbial solution to increase their yields, if they're going to replace their synthetic counterparts, then it's got to meet the same requirements and it's be thoroughly tested for them to use. But it is easier for corporate partners. So when you do deal with corporations, they do have things that they have to meet. So it's a lot different for corporations. So I guess higher you are, the harder it is. But then the lower bottom line is it's harder to get sustainability aspects. But corporations they have a lot more money to play around with.
Yeah, that makes sense. On that note, have you guys encountered like regulatory challenges or things where the government has kind of interfered because the product has been so novel and new in your specific industries or with your specific technologies?
Yes, our biopesticide costs $1.2 million just to get through EPA regulation, and it takes 18 to 30 months. So us not making money for 18 to 30 months on that one product for a startup is insane. So that's why investor money is very important and strategic. Thinking about different ways to bring in revenue before the 18 to 30 months. And that's just in the US. And then you're talking about other countries which have, well, Europe is more complicated or not complicated depending on what you're doing. But some of the other, Canada and Brazil have streamlined some of these regulations because they understand the benefits of biologicals and what it can bring.
I think with regulations, there are headwinds and tailwinds. So some of the tailwinds, and what I mean by that, things that are kind of on our side are, things that are requiring companies to have reporting on their GHG emissions, or, goals to reduce their carbon footprint, or rules against using products that are related to deforestation. Like, these are all regulations that push the consumer or customer demand towards the innovations that we're providing and make it easier for them to make that change, because what they're currently doing becomes more difficult. I would say regulations that maybe are more of a headwind for us, in particular, are things like consumer acceptance, and just having regulators become more familiar with the technology, specifically things like strain engineering and genetic engineering, and how that impacts and the safety related to that as it relates to food products. There's a big variety of kind of connotations with it, and having regulators become more familiar with the safety associated with that technology will certainly make it easier for our company and other companies in the space to get the necessary regulatory approvals. And I think that's an area that I would expect to change over the next few years, as we've seen a few similar companies in the fermentation and cell biology space start to get specifically food approvals in the US. I think it will become more commonplace and easier to get those approvals going forward.
So you think that there's like certain misconceptions that, were that maybe some people or stakeholders might have had, that you have to kind of educate them on, and like how would you educate them on that?
Yeah, I think there's two pieces. One is consumer perception, and the other is regulatory. And I think for regulatory, you always have the burden of proof to prove that what you're doing is safe, because it's new. So, as we see some of these first companies kind of going through that process, they're establishing credibility for not just their product, but the technology itself. So subsequent companies, it will be a path that's already been tread, and it'll be easier, I think, for them to get the necessary approvals. So an example would be the organism that we use to make our fats and oils hasn't been through an FDA GRAS process yet. And that FDA GRAS is the necessary approval for novel food ingredients in the US. So, hypothetically, once we get approval for this organism, someone else might be able to use the same organism to make a different product. So it just, there's some inertia that happens and momentum that will make it easier over time. On the consumer side, it's hard, and it really varies by geography. There's different kind of interpretations of things. I think a lot of it is about consumer education. And a lot of that comes down to marketing and positioning of your product to kind of inform consumers about why it kind of meets their need, and why they should be open to trying it.
That's some good insights to think about if anybody is thinking about going into this space. On that note, how do you see the field changing in the next 5 to 10 years, and how would you advise students or people that want to go into this field to prepare for those changes and opportunities?
Yeah, I can kick this off. So I think packaging has been a very exciting space, at least recently. And I know I may be biased as someone that is trying to always be selling my company. So like, don't just take my word for it. But I think from a regulatory perspective, I think kind of jumping off this previous discussion, there's a lot of regulation coming behind sustainable packaging. Choosing packaging around food, especially food contact applications, is finding things that are compostable, but also things that do not contain any forever chemicals, or you guys may have heard of the term PFAS. So ultimately, there's a push that's coming into play, and ultimately it's a push that's accelerating for packaging that is ultimately biodegradable at all levels across environments and ecosystems. So I see that there's a lot of exciting things, and I think, of course, students should see that there's a lot of exciting things, but I think to that point, there is not a lot of the technology is not quite at the level that it should be, right? All natural materials aren't necessarily the best barrier properties for actual packaging. So, clearly there's this need for new technology, and there's this concept of active packaging. So having your packaging do more than just hold things together. And there's a lot of exciting innovation that's happening in this space. And I think students, there's not just to convince you to join this space, but I think there's a lot of things that are interesting that are happening that ultimately can even grow packaging beyond what it is and continue to innovate that space.
Yeah, that's great. A lot of opportunities in the packaging sector for years to come.
I also believe that zero waste discharge is an emerging field. For example, this is the field required for any industry, like chemical industry or mining industry or the fertilizer industry, any industry. Now the government regulations are coming into force that you cannot simply discharge whatever the waste you generate, cannot mix that in the ocean or some of the rivers. You need to reuse entire product, whatever you are generating, and then make your own water. For example, if I'm generating a lot of wastewater, contaminated water, I need to reuse it. So that is the regulations are now the US government is imposing on industries. I think we should critically need to look into this zero waste discharge thing. That really, really is a good opportunity for all the students to.
Yeah, that's good. Government regulations can create new opportunities as well instead of impeding, as most people, traditionally might think. So that's good to hear. I guess for the other people on this call, if you have any questions for the panelists, we're going to open up Q&A in like 1 or 2 questions. So in a couple of minutes. So if you have any questions, please write it in, and we'll try to get to it during the session. Thank you. So what makes you proud about working in your industry and the impact of your work?
I think in general, working in an industry, whether it's sustainability or health or some other focus, working in an area that is mission driven is something that I maybe didn't realize the importance of to me when I was in school, but once I entered the workforce, became something really apparent. Just knowing that the thing that you're spending every day working on is impacting the world in a positive way, outside of just you as an individual. So I find that to be really fulfilling. And I think the other piece is just working with other similarly minded people who are really passionate about the space. It just makes coming to work all the more enjoyable when you're surrounded by other people who are, diligently working to accomplish a similar mission.
Anyone else want to chime in as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think Brenda kind of summarized that perfectly. I definitely will say that meeting, other startup founders, but also just having people on our team, seeing the scope of sustainable issues that people are willing to work on, and that they're super passionate. Even things that you didn't necessarily, think of is super exciting to see how we're trying to innovate and push the world. In exciting different inventions that sometimes fields that I've not even heard of before. And I think that's what makes me kind of, not to add the cliche, but want to wake up and keep doing what I'm doing, just because there are a lot of exciting things that are always happening, and it's an interesting, very exciting and interesting space to be in. So
Eddie, any thoughts on that from an environmental side, environmental agriculture side?
Yeah. Something I didn't realize is how slow it is, how slow the process is. I wanted to move quickly, but after like advisors and kind of learning more about the industry, I realized it is slow. But that is also exciting because things that are harder and take longer usually have the biggest payouts. And so, and to go wrap it back to the old question about the regulation, well, it's so hard, but once you get through it, it's also gives you a competitive advantage where it's going to take others a lot of time and money to catch up. So it is slow. Takes a long time, but I think the value is at the end when you do make it happen. And that's exciting for me, at least.
I know many of you are working in New York City currently. What about the New York City, I guess, life science sustainability tech scene? Have you experienced and seen, and what's your outlook for the future in that field in New York City?
New York is throwing a lot of money at life sciences. And so it is a growing community. New York is trying to make it a hub for bioscience. So that is exciting. And it's a thriving city. So very alive, a lot to do, and it's essential and flights are pretty cheap. So, yeah, I was living there for a while and I loved it. It was great. It takes a while to get used to it, but once you're there, because I'm from Chicago originally, so when I moved there, it was kind of hard for I think the first month, but after that, it grows on you. So
Yeah, I'll echo that. New York's biotech scene and life sciences ecosystem is growing, and that the city is, providing a variety of different incentives for companies to start in New York City. So it's an exciting time to be part of that ecosystem in New York. Especially our company started in Boston, which everyone kind of associates Boston with kind of life sciences and biotech, and they're surprised to hear that we actively moved out of the Boston area, but it's definitely a really growing industry in the city, and exciting to be a part of. And for us in particular, we were part of NYU's Biolabs facility, which is kind of almost like a WeWork style office for life sciences companies. So that was a really cool place to be a part of, where we were kind of working alongside other companies working with similar technologies, and getting to network in the space as well.
I guess on that note, Marie, your company is based in IndieBio. You could talk a little bit more about that, and anyone who has experience working with the new incubators spaces in New York, how has that like really helped your company and develop the sustainability space in New York?
Yeah, I guess what's super exciting, my background, of course, is not at all within entrepreneurship. I never took a business course in my life. So clearly jumping in and building a company was a totally new set of just players, understanding different acronyms I'd never heard of as someone that had spent my time just working in a lab. So I think a lot of the accelerators, and I can kind of attribute, Johns Hopkins to this a little bit. They have a budding entrepreneurship ecosystem, but I think New York kind of falls under that as well. And I think they find ways to support, either student entrepreneurs or just, younger entrepreneurs. That accelerators kind of gave me the background of where I am now, and have brought me to the space that I am now. And I think a lot of the work that I do as an early stage is a lot of just networking, and a lot of just meeting people that can help me figure out what I need to do, but also help me understand this space better. So I think what's really great about accelerators is, a lot of time they will guide you and give you the foundations for what you're doing, but I think they will also teach you how to actually have mentors that will teach you how to develop the product or develop whatever you're trying to build. And I think that is something that I see across accelerators. And I think even particularly for IndieBio, where I am right now, they're just helping us develop a business and create a space where we can succeed at our best. So I definitely would recommend accelerators. I think they're a great learning experience as someone that has done a lot of learning and has, of course, still has a lot more learning to do. But I think they're a great place to start, especially if, even if you feel like you have never thought about entrepreneurship, or maybe it was like a thought way in the back of your head. I think it's something that ultimately you can choose to explore, and something, you shouldn't at all ignore, because I think it teaches you a lot about the inner workings of businesses and how things kind of get to market and become the products that we see and interact with every day.
Yeah, I was part of the previous IndieBio cohort. So we graduated in January. I've been a part of various over, I think, 6 different programs, and IndieBio was one of the top tier programs I've been to. So they bring a lot of respect with investors and huge connection base. So definitely 100%, 10 out of 10 recommend IndieBio. And New York also has other ones that you can apply for, that lab space that they offer for free. If you're just starting your idea, you just need to test some things out, and a good community. Can't think the name of it, but there's other ones that are in New York. So yeah, phenomenal ecosystem there too. So always networking events, always something going on. And it's international, people from all over the world. So all over the United States. So
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah. I'm just to jump in here as well. I think to Eddie's point, IndieBio is a fantastic space, and I've just started my journey with them. So there's a lot of learning I have with them. But I think also NYC like regional I-Corps program, I-Corps spelled ICORPS, has been really great. If you just have an idea and you want to learn how to explore it, I think is a great space to just learn what it is like to develop a product, but also understand at basis, how do you know whether your product is a particular pain point, and is there a pain point in your space, and is there appropriate product market fit? I think it's a great space if you don't necessarily want to start building your business from the get-go. It's a great place to just understand what it's like to even have an idea and see if it's something that is worth building. So I definitely recommend that, as we did that a while back, and I learned a lot through that process about customer discovery.
I think, Murray, you have a future customer. They said, when will your products be on the store shelves to save us all?
Hopefully soon. I appreciate the comment, Vivian. Hopefully soon. We're actually hoping to pilot our product in a couple of restaurants. So keep an eye out for us. And if you want, you can follow us on every social media platform, or just, subscribe to our newsletter.
Anyone else have any other questions for our panelists?
If no one has any questions, I'd be happy to ask one to the panelists. Can you share any success stories or like impactful moments during your career?
I can definitely think of a few, but I think the one that comes to mind for me is kind of making the first pivot from my first job in the food industry at Pepsi into the sustainability sector, and in the agriculture industry in particular with Indigo. That was a really big challenge. Like, I knew I wanted to pursue project management, and I knew I wanted to work for a mission-driven company. But it's really difficult to get your foot in the door somewhere new when you don't yet have experience maybe working on that exact thing. So I would just say for folks that are thinking about following that type of path, that don't get down. I think networking is an incredibly powerful tool. You never know, that one connection that you made however many years ago will come back around and be useful in the future. And also just focusing on your transferable skills, whether it be your technical knowledge or your interpersonal skills, and kind of how you can leverage those from previous experiences to apply to new companies or new spaces, is a really important way to kind of market yourself, especially if you're looking to move into a sector that's maybe a bit different than where your experience has been previously.
Yeah, I can jump in here. There definitely are quite a few success stories, and I think the working in a space of a startup, especially an early stage startup like ourselves, it's a roller coaster, an up and down roller coaster where you have high highs and very low lows. And I think particularly, you know, to kind of still jump off the IndieBio conversation, but I want to say us getting into the accelerator was definitely a really great success for us. I think so far it's been an amazing experience, and I think it'll continue to be. But I think around the time that we did get, you know, a place in the current cohort, I was, you know, I wasn't feeling too great about the business, and things were not necessarily looking up at that point. But I think, you know, that is the ebb and flow of being in this space. And I think it's what makes it exciting and makes it super interesting to wake up every day, because you don't know what you're going to walk into. But I think it's what makes, like I said, what makes it super interesting. And I'm glad to be a part of it. And I'm glad to be, you know, here in IndieBio space, and to keep growing, and of course to kind of share those wisdoms.
Yeah, we almost ran out of money twice. So getting money those 2 times was crazy. So right now we're raising a $3.5 million round, and so we got a lead investor, which in this environment right now is it's hard. And so being able to like working on closing this round and having the lead investor and 98% of it committed is huge. So pretty excited about that.
Congratulations on the funding milestone. That's a big thing. Yeah.
Thank you. Haven't closed it yet, but we're on track.
Ravi, any insights?
Yeah, actually, you know, every day is a kind of challenges, but that also gives a kind of thinking innovatively out of the box that creates new opportunities. I believe that, you know, every day is a kind of challenges, especially for the startups. But fortunately, because of the students we are getting or the researchers we are having, they are coming with an innovative ideas because challenges are there. They are thinking in an innovative way. We could able to reach our milestones well ahead of the deadlines. That gives a kind of confidence, and then that also giving confidence to the investors. There we can go to the others and then ask for money. See, this is how we achieved so far uh, within the stipulated time. Uh, we are equally gaining the confidence. Indeed, challenges are definitely there. By solving them within the stipulated time, within the limited resources, we are gaining the confidence that yes, tomorrow tomorrow is going to be better.
That's really good. I want to thank everyone for all the panelists for their participation in this panel and for all your wonderful insights. I really hope some of the students, applicants, will take what you said and go forward in the sustainability space. So thank you for taking the time and helping make our world a better place.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.